Today I would like to compare two watches by the same maker. These are watches made by Alphonse Montandon, who was signing from Travers in Neuchâtel in the Valley of Travers. And these both date from the late 1840s to the early mid-1850s. Now, we have a gold pocket watch and a silver pocket watch. Now, the gold pocket watch, and I will be providing close-up pictures of these now, and both are in working condition, by the way. Obviously, they do need cleaning internally. This one is much cleaner, and this would have been a more expensive variation of these two watches, obviously, as this was a gold pocket watch versus a silver watch. What's interesting about these when we compare them is, now this one is serial number 885, and this is quite low for Alphonse watches which have been documented and established in the record, whereas this pocket watch has a serial of 2,332. Now, it is interesting, you will note the difference with the crowns. This is a much older style crown that we are still seeing up until mid-century, mid-19th century, but this would give way. This was much more popular from the beginning of the 19th century. So my initial assumption was that this was possibly older than this, but if judging by the serial number, then there might not be a very big difference. However, we do know that Alphonse was fabricating from after 1846 until 1865. His recorded in the 1866 Davoine Almanac. However, the village of Travers was totally destroyed by a fire in the fall of 1865. So this publishing 1866 version of Davoine actually included information that was projected forward, so he was no longer fabricating in 1866. However, we do have this feature that is rather interesting, this old style crown that is predominantly first part of the 19th century. But it's interesting that this cheaper model, and I do some of this silver version, which is 50 millimeters in diameter, is a cheaper version. When we look at the dust cover, the style of engraving, first of all, this is entirely, the decoration of this piece is much more laconic and much more sparsely decorated as opposed to this more ornately decorated watch. And the engraving of this on the dust cover is very Spartan and very, certainly mid-19th century. We find these watches up until before 1860, certainly, after which much more robust style of engraving, much more three-dimensional came into play. Now, these are both key wine pieces. Now, they both have Lepine caliber 4 movements in them. However, what is interesting is when we examine the movements themselves, they are actually mirror images of each other. Now, whereas this is a cylinder escapement, this is a anchor escapement. So clearly this is a much thinner profile of the watch parts, and it may be for this reason that the Lepine 4 layout is reversed as opposed to this one, which is the normal format. Now, another interesting feature, and I did mention that these are both key wine pieces. As you can see, this is in the original box with the original key. Now, the key that was provided with this piece is, there are two different sizes for this. Now, one size is for key time setting, and this is certainly fitting for time setting. However, the winding of the spring, the spring barrel, this requires a totally different size than this. This is a common situation where time setting and the key wind keys have different sizes, and for this requires a size 6, which this is not. This was a bit fascinating when I received this watch. I discovered this. Another thing I would like to point out between these two is the fact that, now, this piece, this is a very standard piece by Alphonse Montandon in Travers, and we do find mainly high quality, very high-end luxury, mainly gold 18 karat watches. Now this is a silver watch, and this is the so-called lowest quality. I don't really want to say lowest quality. However, this would have been a different segment, a market segment. And this is the only Alphonse watch that I've ever discovered that would have been for a lower, so-called lower grade, not the deluxe niche that he's normally known for. And that's rather fascinating. Now, Alphonse also does have one repeater watch that I have discovered, and that's very beautiful, many complications. But it's very interesting. But very seldom have I encountered his watches also with the independent seconds subdial. And this is really fascinating. This was clearly moving into a more fashionable, that people were expecting to have the subdial. This is a nice feature to have. Now, another thing I would like to discuss about this watch in particular is what is fascinating. What I find fascinating about this watch is when we open up the case and we examine the stamps inside, we do find a casemaker signature, and this is the following. It is a U with an MD connected, MD, and this most certainly has to be, because I cannot consider any other possible candidates, that this casemaker was a Alphonse Montandon. So this case was very likely fabricated by one of his close relatives. Now, there are several possibilities for this. Now, none of these individuals that I have recorded are specifically known for watch case fabrication. However, that need not be an issue, as we do know that many watchmakers in Switzerland could exercise several disciplines in watch fabrication. As we do know that, for example, Charles August Joner, who is recorded in Alfred Chapuis's exhaustive book on clockmakers of Neuchâtel, pendulum clockmakers, we do find him listed as a stone cutter and a mechanicien. However, he is known for fabricating one of the most unique astronomical clocks with scores of dials for various different time zones across the globe, and this had calendar features, and it was a huge clock weighing many kilos. This was a huge piece. This was a piece of furniture, basically. But this is an item that can be counted on one hand, their existence in the world, and this was fabricated by him. He is not associated so much, at least by Chapuis, as a clockmaker, yet he fabricated this unique item. So we cannot exclude that this, because we do not have specific case making specializations on any of the Ulysses that we are recording, that this wasn't made by a Alphonse Montandon. And indeed, one of these candidates was it's only recorded as horloger, which is watchmaker. This is a very general term. This could be this could include any of or all of those disciplines. So I will provide at the end of this video some of the candidates who I believe could be associated with this UMD, who I definitely consider that this is Alphonse Montandon. And in such a case, I do consider that this may be on the earlier side of Alphonse's fabrication, in that he may have been relying on cousins, relatives, and this type of thing for procurement of his watch parts. And certainly on the other side of the mountains, now he was in Travers, and on the other side of the mountains in Saint Croix, there was also Alphonse Montandon, who was very famous for making many different watches, was an inventor of this bascule system with Jacquard, and it is very possible that even this Alphonse Montandon of Saint Croix could have been behind the case making for this, that he was making it. And they were relatively closely situated. That St. Croix is just on the other side of the mountain pass in this Val de Travers as you approach the way to Geneva. So this is just a short comparison video of a gold and silver watch, which is circa late 1840s to, by my guesstimation, no later than mid-1850s, by this Montandon watch fabricator, the only fabricator who was signing in Travers. So this is a note for the record, and I thank you for your interest. Bye-bye.